NIO France exec tease exciting news as the EV maker prepares for expansion, and Fireflies is the one on the horizon. This is after they unveil ONVO. Speaking of ONVO, they want to hold an exclusive launch event on September the 19th for the ONVO L60. This will also be quite exciting. So this is something that we want to touch on. And a big news. You know how the TikTok ban has gotten out of hand in the US. The US actually wants to become restrictive, more restrictive. US to propose ban on Chinese softwares in autonomous vehicle. Now, you see, the fact that the US has the support of Europe majorly and the support of South America and the support of wider Asia, the US can actually cripple the Chinese economy by doing little things like this. Because when Chinese companies are not able to make sales of their vehicle in the US, struggle to make sales in Europe because of tariffs, you see how this will affect the Chinese economy because the Chinese economy is drastically trying to change and they're changing very quickly. They're advancing very quickly, especially in the technology and EV space. They're way ahead of the Europeans, they're way ahead of the Americans. And it's actually quite scary for the Europeans and the Americans to see this much competition from China. Scary, scary. So what happens when sanctions doesn't work? What happens when, China is like, we don't want to play nice. You know, the US starts ramping up things. The heat in the kitchen starts to get turned up. So the entire globe is really taking on this position of, extreme privacy in today's day and age, which you can understand because, technology is advancing at such rapid pace. You really don't know how advanced the Chinese technology is, or the American technology is, or the Russian technology, or the European technology. You really don't know how advanced the South American or African technology is because there's very little crossover points. There's very little crossover points anymore, because the globe has just become such a more restrictive place. In terms of doing business, as you can see, it is becoming heavily restrictive, especially for Chinese brands. So let's try to get an understanding of what's going on with Firefly. Although its official plan to enter new markets is still unknown, NIO has been teasing the expansion to new countries and new continents over the last few months. So far, NIO has expanded to 5 European markets, including Norway in 2021 and Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark in late 2022. In the long term, the group is aiming to sell electric vehicles in France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Greece, and in Balkans countries, besides the UAE region later this year and Latin America. Thomas Christian, head of user development for NIO France, and one of the first employees based in Paris office, shared on LinkedIn a text focused on battery swap technology. The executive included is one of the first in line, a teaser for the exciting news stating, "I've been quiet for a while and will ask you for a bit of patience before sharing exciting news to come later." Something else that also created a lot of talk was the fact that NIO is hit in the last month with the launch of 50 NIO is hit in the last month with the launch of their 50th power swap station in Europe. And another one will hit this month with a total of 50 million battery swaps achieved globally since launch. 50 million battery swap achieved globally since launch. That's remarkable for NIO in many different ways, I must say. The company is expected to announce new European and global new markets at the upcoming annual event, the NIO Day, usually held in late December in China. This year, Shanghai headquarters will host the event in Guangzhou in the southern region of the country. Now, in a reaction to the extra tariff announced by the European Commission, NIO has hinted that an adjustment on the prices cannot be ruled out. However, the company says that it's maintaining its prices at this stage. And this has been continually confirmed that NIO expansion will not slow. They want to continue this expansion despite these tariffs. If anything, they want to do more expansions, if anything. And that is very good to see. So let's look at the exclusive event coming up for the ONVO L60, set to be on November the 19th. The event will be held in Hefei, Honu province, where NIO currently operates 2 manufacturing plants and is preparing to add 2 more. Wow, they really are going in on their manufacturing in China. And that's what I mean when I say they don't plan on slowing down. You would think they want to build more factories outside of China. Looks like they're more interested in building more factories within China, obviously because of the benefits that comes with that. You can't rule that out. And if they can manufacture a vehicle at as cheap as possible, would tariffs even make a difference at a certain point? Who knows the long-term strategy that, these EV companies will implement to combat the tariff problems. I've heard BYD setting up shop in Hungary, or, Turkey or something like that, which would be really good. Any country that is more welcoming to Chinese EVs, and that would give Chinese EVs access to wider European Union countries for sales. That would be fantastic. So the first production of the ONVO L60 is expected to roll off the assembly line already next week at NIO Factory 2, that's F2 in Hefei. ONVO President Alan Hay has recently confirmed that vehicle deliveries will begin 1 week after the launch. Based on the event date, the delivery ceremony of the first unit is expected to take place around September 26. In late May, Hay announced that the brand is developing 6-seat and 7-seater models aimed at larger families for the ONVO brand. Fantastic. After unveiling the exterior of the first model, the L60 in mid-May, ONVO will reveal the full pricing details at the event. This includes pricing for the purchase of the car and without NIO's battery subscription plans, while the interior will be revealed later this month. The pre-sale price of the L60 stands at $209. The pre-sale price of the L60 stands at $30,621 with the batteries included. So you see, they want these prices to be very, 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 very competitive. And something to consider as well. If NIO can price their vehicles as cheap as possible, if a tariff is 30% and the car costs 10,000, does that mean that NIO has to pay a 30% tariff, which is 3,000? If that's the case, you look at a car like the ONVO L60, the L60 around 30,000 US dollars, I believe. For example, if tariffs are about 30%, well, I guess you're looking at an additional 9,000. I think the US is implementing higher tariffs. I think it's close to like 100% or something like that, something crazy. But if tariffs are a bit more flexible, it might actually work out affordable for these companies, especially companies that want to introduce cheaper models to Europe. The cheaper you can build a vehicle, the cheaper you can offer the vehicle, less tariff. So if you want to sell your vehicle for 10 grand and only pay 30% on tariff, which is 3,000, it might actually be beneficial for companies that are selling cheaper vehicles. It is really the companies that are selling the more expensive vehicles from China who might struggle. For instance, Polestar and the NIO brand itself, because NIO vehicles are known for being a bit more pricey, a bit more expensive. So that might see a struggle. But the cheaper brands like ONVO, Firefly, but maybe I'm just dreaming. Maybe my math is completely wrong. I haven't written this down. I haven't thought about this fully, properly. It's just something that popped into my head and I just thought, well, if the cars are as cheap as possible, then that lowers the tariffs. But then how does these companies make a profit? Because by making the cars as cheap as possible, that's basically giving up your profit and paying EU tax. That's difficult. That is difficult in a market that's already very competitive and anti-Chinese product. It's just very difficult right now to navigate for Chinese brands. And I think it's really unfair because you get European brands that are in China and they're doing business. You got Tesla building cars in China and selling them in Europe. And Tesla started complaining about these tariffs. And then the European Commission really said, basically, for Tesla's a special case. We will adjust those tariffs and make it a bit more favorable for Tesla. Of course they would. Why are you going to do that for Tesla, but you won't do it for Chinese brands? Tesla is an American brand, but it does build cars in China and then sells them wherever it wants. In Asia, in Africa, in Europe, they sell them wherever they want. Given that's the case, why are Tesla getting special privilege? And with the European tariffs, I've noticed that it varies, depends on the company. It varies quite a lot. Not just for Tesla, but it varies for various different companies. Polestar has been one of those ones who have been hit quite massively. And given that Polestar vehicles are really expensive, I have no idea how the company is going to navigate that. That's going to be difficult, which makes a lot of sense why Volvo instantly reorganized their manufacturing of the EX30 and the EX90 from China to Belgium. They were like, they were going to do it eventually. It was inevitable, but they sped that up really quickly. They were like, nope, we got to get this done as soon as possible because we want to avoid these damn tariffs as much as possible. In some ways, it makes a lot of sense. Europe is looking for economical benefits. If you're going to sell cars in our country, you're going to need to build a factory and provide jobs and economical benefits, not just sales. And this is how Europe has been led as a continent for quite some time. It's not a continent, it's a region. Countries that are the most prosperous, you tend to find that they do these kind of things. Like if you want to do business with us or even sell to our people, you must open a factory and provide jobs and economical benefits. That is the price. So that makes sense. But, it came out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere because European brands have been selling in China for a while at great successful rates. So it's kind of seen as a little bit unfair that these tariffs are being targeted at Chinese brands. It just seems unfair. And with the 100% tariffs from the US, I think it is. What the hell? What the hell is that? And speaking of the US, proposing a ban on Chinese softwares in autonomous vehicles. Yeah, they're becoming very suspicious of each other, if I'm being completely honest. Actually, in this article, it's saying that earlier this year, Biden administration announced a 400% tax, 400% tariff on increase on Chinese imports. 400%? So that's not even 100%. That's 400%. If my math is correct, does that mean that if NIO imports a car that costs, $100,000, does that mean that they have to pay 4 times the amount, which is $400,000, or $400,000 plus the $100,000? I'm just wondering, like 400%. That's crazy, right? I mean, that's like making sure that no Chinese cars are sold in the U.S. at all. It's like that's what it really sounds like. Like that's not even like a 50% tariff or a 30% tariff or a 90% tariff or even a 10% tariff. That's like suicidal, business suicidal. So setting up shop in Canada or in Mexico or even further down in South America might actually be beneficial. But does it give you access to the US like Mexico and Canada does? That's the real big question. But this that's being proposed, a ban on Chinese software from autonomous and connected vehicles in the United States. The forthcoming rule aims to prohibit Chinese softwares in vehicles with level 3 automation and higher, effectively banning the testing of autonomous vehicles from Chinese companies on US roads. These products will face significant tariff increase, with the tariffs on electric vehicles rising sharply from 25% to 100%. God damn. Yep, it was 100% on tariffs. So it was 25% at initially. I didn't know that it was already 25%. That's already quite crazy. The proposed rule from Commerce Department will restrict vehicle equipment with Chinese developed advanced wireless communication modules from operating in the country. Automakers and suppliers will require a verified that their connected vehicles and advanced autonomous vehicle softwares are not developed by foreign entities of concern, such as China, according to Reuters. This is wild. This is wild. I mean, I get it, but it's wild. I get it. It's national security in a sense, but it's wild. But I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this subject. Let me know what you think. Subscribe to see more, leave a comment, and I will see you in our next video. Peace.